Have you ever felt it? That strange tension in the air when someone walks into the room? The way your heart shifts slightly, not racing, not exploding, just quietly alert. You don't speak about it. They don't speak about it, but something unspoken moves between you. And here's the dangerous part. This connection is not supposed to exist. It may be socially complicated. It may be morally restricted. It may be emotionally inconvenient. And yet, it feels real. According to Carl Jung, the most powerful connections in our lives are often the ones we are told we should not feel. Because the unconscious does not care about rules. It cares about truth. And when someone secretly likes you in a forbidden situation, their unconscious betrays them. Today, we will reveal the two massive psychological signs Jung says expose this hidden attraction. But be warned. Once you see these signs, you will never unsee them. There are relationships society approves of. And then there are connections that exist in the shadows. A colleague who lingers too long in conversation. A friend who becomes slightly protective when you mention someone else. A married person who maintains boundaries, yet always finds reasons to check on you. On the surface, everything appears controlled, respectful, safe, but underneath, something trembles. Jung believed that when desire is suppressed, it does not disappear. It descends into the unconscious. And what is pushed into the unconscious does not die. It grows roots. It gains intensity. It becomes symbolic. It finds indirect ways to surface. This is where forbidden attraction becomes most powerful. Because the more it is denied, the more energy it accumulates. The first thing you must understand is this. When someone truly likes you in a forbidden dynamic, they experience inner conflict. An inner conflict creates psychological leakage. Their words may say one thing, but their behavior whispers another. Let us go deeper. In Jungian psychology, there is something called the shadow. The shadow contains everything we reject about ourselves. Forbidden desires. Socially unacceptable feelings. Emotional impulses we consider dangerous. When someone feels drawn to you, but believes they should not, that attraction moves into their shadow. And once it is there, it begins to influence them unconsciously. They might become unusually serious around you, or strangely quiet, or overly rational, or even slightly irritated for no clear reason. Because attraction they cannot act on creates tension. And tension must go somewhere. This is where sign number 1 begins to reveal itself. But you must look carefully. When someone secretly likes you in a forbidden way, they watch you differently. Not in an obvious way. Not like infatuation in teenage movies. It is more controlled, more restrained. They will avoid staring directly at you for too long. Yet somehow, they always know what you are doing. They notice subtle changes. Your mood shift. Your haircut. Your silence. Your absence. Why? Because the unconscious mind prioritizes what matters emotionally. And what matters emotionally receives attention, even when logic tries to suppress it. Jung once explained that projection plays a huge role in attraction. Projection happens when someone unconsciously places parts of themselves onto another person. If someone is drawn to you in a forbidden context, they may begin projecting their unlived desires onto you. You become symbolic. You represent something they are missing in their life. Freedom, passion, depth, emotional understanding. This is why they react strongly when you talk about someone else. Even if they try to hide it. Even if they smile. There is a micro-expression. A shift in tone. A sudden seriousness. They are not reacting to the story. They are reacting to the possibility of losing something they were never supposed to want. And here is where things become psychologically fascinating. When attraction cannot be expressed directly, it transforms into subtle protection. They defend you in conversations. They justify your actions. They become slightly territorial in ways that are disguised as concern. I just don't think that person is good for you. Be careful with him. You deserve better than that. On the surface, it sounds like friendly advice. Underneath, it is an emotional investment. The forbidden nature of the relationship intensifies everything, because limitation increases desire. When something is restricted, the psyche attaches more meaning to it. This is not weakness. It is human psychology. But now we must approach the first big sign clearly. Sign number 1, emotional inconsistency. When someone likes you but believes they should not, they oscillate between closeness and distance. One day they are warm, engaged, attentive. The next day they are cold, withdrawn, distant. This inconsistency is not manipulation. It is inner conflict. They are fighting themselves. Part of them wants to move closer. Another part pulls away to protect their identity, their reputation, their existing commitments. This push-pull dynamic is classic Jungian shadow behavior. The more they feel, the more they retreat. The more they retreat, the stronger the suppressed feeling becomes. You may feel confused. You may think, did I imagine the connection? No, you didn't. What you are sensing is their psychological battle. And here is the deeper truth Jung understood. Forbidden attraction is rarely about the other person alone. It is about what that person awakens within us. If you trigger something profound in them, something they have denied in themselves, they will both crave and resist you. This is why they might start conversations randomly, then suddenly shorten them. They might initiate contact, then disappear for days. They might open up emotionally, then quickly close the door. It feels chaotic, but chaos is often a sign of suppressed desire. Now here is something even more powerful. When someone secretly likes you in a forbidden way, they test emotional safety without realizing it. They reveal small vulnerabilities, personal frustrations, hidden dreams. Then they watch your reaction carefully. They are measuring whether you feel like an emotional home. And yet, they will never directly confess, because confession would force reality, and reality might destroy everything. So instead, they exist in tension, and this tension leaks into their body language. Slight leaning in, sudden silence when you enter, a protective tone, increased awareness of physical proximity. But remember, it is controlled, always controlled, because the relationship cannot cross a visible line. Now we move into the second sign, and this one is far more powerful, far more revealing, and far more dangerous. Because while emotional inconsistency exposes inner conflict, sign number 2 exposes emotional depth. According to Carl Jung, what truly binds two people is not surface attraction, it is psychic recognition. A sense that the other person carries something deeply familiar, something ancient within us. Jung called this the Anima and Animus dynamic, the inner feminine in a man and the inner masculine in a woman. When someone feels drawn to you in a forbidden way, you often activate this inner archetype. And when that archetype is activated, the connection becomes intense. Sign number 2, unusual emotional attunement. If someone secretly likes you in a relationship that cannot exist openly, they become deeply attuned to your emotional world. Not in a loud way, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, precise way. They sense when you are slightly off, even when you pretend you are fine. They notice subtle shifts in your tone. They ask questions others would not think to ask. They remember small details about your life that most people forget. Why? Because when someone feels forbidden attraction, their unconscious pays attention with heightened sensitivity. You are not just another person in their environment. You become psychologically significant. And significance creates focus. You may notice something strange. In group settings, they may act neutral, balanced, polite, but when the two of you are alone, even briefly, their energy changes. The conversation deepens. Their voice softens. Their gaze becomes steady but restrained. It feels intimate without crossing boundaries. This is not a coincidence. This is containment. The forbidden nature of the connection forces them to compress their feelings. And compressed emotion becomes concentrated. It shows up in micro moments. A pause before they respond to you. A slight tension in their jaw. A breath held for half a second too long. These are not romantic movie gestures. These are psychological signals. Jung believed that when we meet someone who reflects our unlived self, we experience what he called the projection of the soul image. We begin to see in them the person we could have become, or the emotional experience we secretly desire. This is why they may listen to you differently than they listen to others. They are not just hearing your words. They are feeling your existence. And here is where it becomes even clearer. If someone secretly likes you in a forbidden dynamic, they will show subtle jealousy. Not possessive jealousy, but emotional sensitivity. When you talk about someone new in your life, their posture shifts. Their responses become shorter. Their curiosity becomes forced. They try to maintain composure. But something inside tightens. Because what they feel is not just an attraction. It is an attachment forming against their will. Attachment is powerful. It seeks closeness. But when closeness is restricted, attachment becomes silent suffering. And silent suffering expresses itself through over-awareness. They may start helping you more than necessary. Offering support before you ask. Protecting your reputation in conversations when you are not present. This is not random kindness. This is an emotional investment disguised as normal behavior. And you might ask, if they feel this deeply, why don't they act? Because forbidden attraction threatens identity. Maybe they are already committed elsewhere. Maybe social structures make the connection inappropriate. Maybe professional boundaries exist. Maybe family dynamics complicate everything. Whatever the reason, acting on the feeling would require destroying something stable. So instead, they choose control. But control does not erase emotion. It only redirects it. You might notice they try to intellectualize your connection. They reduce it to logic. We just get along well. We have similar personalities. It's nothing special. When someone minimizes a powerful connection verbally, it often means they are trying to calm themselves. Because the unconscious knows the truth before the conscious mind accepts it. There is another subtle element here. They create small emotional exclusivity without realizing it. Inside jokes, shared glances, private references, tiny symbolic bonds that feel personal. Why do they do this? Because even if the relationship cannot be official, the psyche still seeks uniqueness. It wants to feel chosen. And in these micro ways, they choose you. But the most telling moment comes when distance enters the picture. If you withdraw slightly, if you reduce attention, if you become less available, watch carefully. Their behavior shifts. They may initiate conversation more quickly. They may check in unexpectedly. They may become unusually attentive again. Why? Because the possibility of losing your fear. And fear reveals attachment faster than desire ever could. Jung understood that what we resist most intensely often holds the deepest meaning for our growth. A forbidden connection is rarely accidental. It often appears when two people mirror something unresolved within each other. That is why these dynamics feel magnetic. Not traumatic, magnetic, like two forces quietly pulling beneath the surface. But here is the truth you must hold carefully. Not every forbidden attraction is meant to be acted upon. Some exist purely to awaken awareness, to show you what you crave, to reveal parts of yourself you have ignored. And sometimes The other person feels this awakening more strongly than you do. They may look composed, stable, unbothered, but inside they are negotiating with themselves daily. Is this wrong? Is this real? Why do I feel this? Why can't I stop thinking about it? You may never hear these questions out loud, but you will see them in the pauses, in the distance. In return, now we must go deeper, because recognizing the signs is one thing. Understanding the meaning behind them is another. Forbidden attraction is rarely just about chemistry. It is rarely just about physical pull. According to Carl Jung, when something feels intense yet restricted, it often carries symbolic weight. It represents a part of your psyche that is trying to come into consciousness. And when someone secretly likes you in a relationship that cannot fully exist, what you are witnessing is not just desire. You are witnessing psychological awakening under pressure. The reason forbidden attraction feels stronger than ordinary attraction is simple but uncomfortable. Resistance amplifies emotion. The human psyche values what it cannot easily have. When access is limited, imagination fills the gaps. When expression is blocked, fantasy grows louder. This is why small interactions feel charged. A 2-minute conversation can replay in their mind for hours. A casual smile can feel like a secret message, because what cannot be expressed directly becomes emotionally magnified internally. But here is the part most people misunderstand. The intensity is not always about you alone. Sometimes you are the catalyst. You activate something dormant inside them. You mirror a life they did not choose, a path they abandoned, a version of themselves they buried for stability. And when you embody that unlived possibility, attraction forms not only toward you, but toward the freedom you symbolize. This is why they may appear thoughtful after speaking to you, slightly distant, reflective. You do not just affect their emotions. You disturb their structure, and disturbance creates awareness. Jung believed that meaningful encounters often feel fated because they activate archetypes within us. The forbidden's dynamic intensifies this archetypal energy. It feels significant, charged, almost destined. But destiny is not always instruction. Sometimes it is illumination. Now here is where wisdom becomes necessary. When you recognize that someone secretly likes you in a forbidden situation, you gain power. Not power to manipulate, not power to control, but the power of awareness. And awareness changes dynamics. Because once you see the emotional inconsistency and the unusual attunement, you understand the tension is real. You stop questioning your intuition. You stop wondering if you imagined it. You realize there is something unspoken operating beneath the surface. But the real question becomes, what will you do with this knowledge? Forbidden's attraction tests maturity. It asks whether you seek validation or growth. If you lean into the tension recklessly, you may ignite something that destroys stability, theirs or yours. If you suppress it harshly, you may deny an important psychological lesson. The balanced path is awareness without impulsiveness. Observe the energy without feeding it unnecessarily. Maintain dignity. Maintain boundaries. Because when two people silently acknowledge attraction without acting on it, something profound can happen. It can transform into respect, into inspiration, into personal evolution. Not all powerful connections are meant to become relationships. Some are meant to awaken parts of you so that you seek healthier alignment elsewhere. And sometimes the other person understands this before you do. Their distance is not rejection. It is self-protection. Their inconsistency is not cruelty. It is a conflict. Their silence is not indifferent. It is containment. But containment cannot last forever without consequence. Eventually, one of three things happens. The feeling fades as circumstances change. The structure around them shifts, making expression possible. or the tension becomes too heavy, and one person creates permanent distance to protect their life. That final withdrawal can feel sudden, cold, confusing, but often it is the result of months of internal negotiation. Remember this. When someone secretly likes you in a forbidden way, they carry the weight alone most of the time. They cannot confess freely. They cannot seek advice openly. They must manage the emotion privately. That creates psychological strain, and strain eventually demands resolution. This is why sometimes the person who seemed deeply connected suddenly becomes formal, professional, detached. They are not pretending the connection never existed. They are choosing stability over intensity. And that choice, while painful, is often psychologically mature. So how do you know if what you experienced was real? Look at the pattern. Emotional inconsistency combined with unusual emotional attunement. Distance mixed with deep awareness. Control layered over sensitivity. If these two big signs were present consistently, then yes, something genuine was there. But genuine does not always mean sustainable. And this is where Jung's wisdom becomes grounding. He taught that the goal of life is individuation, becoming whole within yourself. Sometimes forbidden attraction appears to show you what your soul craves, so that you integrate that quality internally rather than chasing it externally. If they made you feel deeply seen, perhaps you must learn to see yourself. If they awakened passion, perhaps you must create a life that excites you independently. If they reflected emotional depth, perhaps you must honor your own depth more courageously. The connection then becomes a mirror rather than a destination. And mirrors are powerful teachers. In the end, the unconscious never lies. It reveals truth through tension, through attraction, through discomfort, through silence. If someone secretly likes you in a forbidden relationship, the signs will always leak through behavior. Emotional push and pull, heightened awareness, subtle jealousy, protective instinct, quiet intensity. You do not need confession to validate what your intuition already knows. But you do need wisdom to handle it responsibly. Because the most powerful relationships are not the ones that explode dramatically. They are the ones that transform you quietly. Sometimes the greatest love story is not the one that happens, but the one that teaches you who you are becoming. And that is the deeper truth behind forbidden attraction.